Hello guys, welcome to a new video on Tower of God New World. And in this video, I'm going to do a future-proof tier list. I'm not only going to rank a unit based on the performance, but I'm going to pay special attention to whether that unit's kit is going to stay relevant in the future as well. This is all my own speculation. This is an extremely subjective tier list because I have no way of knowing which kind of units they're going to release soon, what they're going to do, and which kind of growth system they're going to implement and how that's going to impact the meta. I have no information on that. I have no idea how that's going to work out in the future. So again, this is purely my own speculation and my perspective on the game. I will first go over the different tiers and explain why I created them, and then we're going to go over every single unit and give a few words as to why they fit in that tier. And yeah, I would say we can get started. I will start from the lowest one, so the who's this tier. This is just a tier for units that are already forgotten, nobody uses. They have very old kits. They are not really providing a lot to the teams. So that's just weird units that you are not really going to invest into. Then we have the basically forgotten. They're a bit better than the previous tier, but not by that much. They have very old kits. They don't do enough or they do it bad. So you are not really going to be using them that frequently. Then we have the will quickly fall off tier. In this one, there are units that at the moment are still somewhat fine, but you can already see either other units being released that can replace them, or just their performance being weaker against newer units. So those are going to be the units that we're going to add in this tier. Then we have the will slowly fall off category. In here, we will see units that at the moment are good. We can see that they're going to start declining in performance, but not that quickly. They will stay good for quite a bit. Then we have the will stay useful tier. In this one, there are just units that have very solid kits that come in handy a lot of times, and also kits that even if new units are going to be released with similar functionalities, they're not going to entirely replace them, or at least let's hope so. I don't know. Then we have the always super valuable tier. These are just units that have great performance on some specific things, and they will basically never be replaced. If there are going to be more units that do similar things, they will just be added to this tier basically because they're just so good and it's unlikely for them to be ever replaced. So that's more or less the idea behind the tiers. Now I would say we can just get started again looking at different units tier by tier. So starting from the bottom, we have Chaonwa. That guy is basically worthless. He has an okay kit, but he's basically single target, provides nothing in adventure. It was at best used in some bossing, but that's about it. Kind of trash, no real reason to use him. Then we have Gietang. That chicken is just the SSR DPS that got a good revolution upgrade, but still cannot dish out enough damage. He has magic resistance decrease if you really want to use him as a debuffer, but that's not really worth it. So kind of trash. Then we have Hats. That guy was a great carry when the game first launched. Now that guy is just worthless. He has a projectile block in his kit, but I would say is pretty unreliable and is just a meme for the most part. So yeah, just skip him. Then we have Rak, a weird of a sort of ranged tank hybrid healer, kind of weird. You don't really use him because he's a tank that's basically not tanking. He's more of a sub tank if we want, but what he provides is just not needed in most teams, so it's kind of worthless. Then we have Data Urek, probably the only SSR plus that I ranked here, to be honest, but I should have probably demoted some more, but whatever. Data Urek just provides a shield to your team, which is kind of worthless. It's based on his damage, which is nothing. And then he also provides a physical resistance decrease. Nothing really worth mentioning. You can just keep the guy, he's worthless. Then we have Vespa. She has a very short invincibility frame on her passive, which is not too bad. You could use her for that. But now that we have Sela, she's just entirely worthless in my opinion. Then we have Compressed Rock. That guy is also an SSR DPS. You're not really going to use him much because, I mean, his damage is just subpar compared to the other SSR plus options. You could still use him in some ways, is not the worst of the SSR DPSs, but not really that useful. Then we have Hiwa. She was a monster in the past. Now she's merely a AoE defense shredder. You don't really need that though, because we have a lot of units that already do it. So she's just entirely worthless. Then we have the first unit of the purple element, and that's Lurker. That guy is only used in bossing, because other than that, it just has like a single target AoE, single target defense shred, single target magic resistance decrease, nothing really important, so kind of worthless. Then we have Prince, he's also not that great. He has a magic resistance decrease in his kit and increase to physical and magic resistance for his teammates, but only the close range ones that are inside this triangle, kind of worthless. Then we have Rachel, she's also kind of useless. She has a bit of grouping, but it's so weak, it makes no sense. Then we have Kiseiya. Kiseiya used to be a great unit to assassinate enemies. Now she cannot really do that reliably, so not really worth it. She doesn't provide enough. She has a barrier break, but is again kind of unreliable, I would say, so not worth using. Then we have Verdi. To be honest, Verdi could be useful at times if we really want to, because she has a very particular debuff. Other than the blind, we don't care. She has a purple resistance decrease, which nobody else has in the game at the moment. I mean, there are other element resistance decrease, but she is the only one with the purple element decrease. Still not good enough to make her valuable. Then we have a Craptor, is yet another SSR DPS unit. I don't think there is much to say. It just doesn't deal enough damage. Is still somewhat okay. Is probably a bit worse than Compressed Rock, but more or less on the same level actually. So you could use him, but it's not worth the effort. Then we have an Act. That unit was never good, never will be. They gave her a 1000 energy decrease, but it's just not worth it. So whatever. Then we have Amigo Charts, super like selfish tank. He doesn't provide anything to the team, and he cannot even survive on his own. So entirely worthless. Then we have Michael. He has an HP recovery block, if I remember correctly, or an energy recovery block, one of the two. He's not too bad. He was used when he could assassinate enemies, but now he cannot anymore. If you can keep him alive, maybe he can provide something to the team. So I was probably a bit too harsh, but still not worth it in my point of view. Then we have Vicente. He's also not really going to be that important. He has nice interactions with enemy with high evasion. You can reduce the enemy evasion with him and make them easier to kill, but that's not really a super useful feature. So not really a unit you want to invest in. Then we have uh, Hansung Yu. I kind of forgot his name for a second. He is not too bad, to be honest. He has attack speed decrease, the only unit in the game to have that kind of debuff, and he has a lot of magic resistance shred. That's still not enough to make him playable, but I mean, he could have some uses in the future, we don't know, but so far, kind of worthless. Then we have Elizabeth. She's not too bad as a SSR DPS unit. She used to be one of the best, but with the Revolution release, she just got shafted. Basically, she got shitty Revolution upgrades, and she's not really that worth anymore. She could still do something, but I wouldn't recommend her. Meliodas, more or less the same. It was also an insane DPS unit. It has also quite good survivability thanks to the HP cap to the damage it can take. So not too bad, but again, not really a worthwhile unit to invest in. Then we have Oriang. That guy just provides a shield to an ally and some more resistances, kind of worthless. He has a provoke, but not really a great tank to have. Then we have Kurran. He used to be a great unit as well, but Revolution just didn't make him justice. He's just kind of worthless. He's a have a evasion decrease kind of unit. Doesn't kill anyone. He breaks barriers, but not really worth using a slot for him. Then we have Quant. That guy just does nothing, so we can move on. We have Kun Hatzling. That guy is an okay SSR DPS, worse than a Craptor and Compressed Rock in my opinion. So not really worth investing in, but it's not too bad. Then we have Kurdan. That guy has a lot of resistances, can tank quite well, has an AoE silence, and more importantly, an energy drain in an AoE, which is not too bad to be honest. Like it could deserve a higher spot in general, but you just have so many options, and this guy is not really going to survive long enough anyway that it doesn't really justify playing him. He's going to be great in the early game, but then it will just be worthless. Then we have Quaitro, another pretty okay SSR DPS unit. As all SSR DPS units, they will fall off unless they actually increase the levels of the subnodes for them. But so far, they're just average, whatever. So Quieter is no exception. Is okay in survivability, his damage is not too bad, but it will fall off. So makes no sense. Then we have Edin, that guy is useless, so it doesn't matter. Then we have Yuri, she's also useless. So let's move on. We have Rachel, she's again the second SSR plus unit in this list and probably the last one, yes. She doesn't have a bad damage, but is just not enough, not comparable with the other SSR Plus units, so she doesn't deserve any investment, anything. She's already obsolete. She has the green element resistance decrease, which could be worth it, but also the other two collab units have it, so she's not really that special for that. Then we have Mew Love. That guy is an okay SSR DPS, but doesn't really do much. Like the other guys, he will hit the ceiling, he already hits it. He's not really going to compare with the other options. You won't really run him, so not much we can do here. Then we have Lilial. She has okay AoE crowd control, but that's all she has. So is it worth it? I don't think so, and I would probably recommend no one to build her. Then we have Shane. She also has the green element resistance decrease as Rachel, but she also has a crit hit resistance decrease debuff that will just let all your team have a 40% crit rate increase, basically, which is not bad, to be honest, but not enough to make her playable. And her survivability is also quite trash. So, yeah, she will stay here, nobody will use her, and that's fine. Then we have Shiliel. She was used to one shot Urek back when like 200 deficit was a high deficit. Now you cannot really use her for that. She is not really worth it because her kit doesn't provide much. So just forget about her. It's fine. Lore, more or less the same. He also was used to one shot the enemies, and now it just does nothing. It will sleep and die. So pretty good. That's all for this tier. We can move on to the basically forgotten tier. We have Asensio. That guy has good invincibility, but still not really enough. His damage is just whatever, not high enough in my opinion. And his survivability has that window well when he has to wait to recast the special move, which is a bit annoying. So it will often die anyway. His debuff is just a physical resistance decrease, which in my opinion is not enough to justify using him. So it will eventually be forgotten as well. I don't think he has enough in his kit to stand the test of time. Wang Nanja is one of the few SSR DPS units that can actually be used. It will still fall off and is basically never used anymore, especially if you are at a very high deficit, but is still the best out of the SSR DPSs we have, together with PV that we're going to look at in a second. So could still be used, but will eventually just be forgotten as the other units. Then we have Dorsey. She used to be a great grouper. She can still do that. She's not as reliable as a new option that was released, so she's basically being replaced. That's why she's in this tier. Otherwise, if we didn't have Anna, probably she would have been in a higher tier. Then we have Joaquin. He used to be together with Hiwa, one of the two best DPS units in the game. Now this guy is just there as sort of a physical resistance shredder and AoE CC. You could still use him. I don't find enough reasons to justify playing him, but could still be used. It will be forgotten eventually. We will get more units that can do a similar thing as him, so no real reason to go for him. Reflejo also has a very similar use case. He has good AoE, He has the physical resistance shred, but Reflejo also steals energy, so it's kind of an improvement over utility Joaquin, let's say. Also, Reflejo's durability is insane, and Joaquin is just kind of trash. Now we have Ghost. He's also basically forgotten. You could still use him because he has a nice AoE magic resistance decrease. He has Provoke. His durability isn't too bad with Revolution 5 and a lot of investment, but yeah, not worth it. So just forget about him as well. Then we have Jin Sung. He used to be a great assassin, obviously in the past with Rayana, he could one-shot some annoying units. Now it doesn't really do much. You could still use him if you can allow him to spam his special move. He will do well, but not enough to justify the kind of units you should play with him. So kind of worthless. And I would say don't play him. It's not worth the effort. Then we have Viol. Even after the buff, it still didn't really like get any relevance in the meta. You could use him. His damage isn't too low, but it's not enough. So, from my point of view, Viol is also going to be forgotten soon. There is no real reason to be playing him. You can if you want, but only if your deficit is lower than 300 or maybe even 250. I don't know. Probably you can do 250, 270, maybe even 300 if you give him really good teammates, but then you're going to weaken the rest of the teams. So I would say not really worth it. Then we have Escanor, used to be a really insane tank. He provided a lot of survivability to the team. Now it's just made of paper. He dies. He does nothing. It will just group a little bit, but the grouping is very, very weak. And the best use case is just giving him Rayana and have an AoE silence early on. That's all it does. But that's enough of a use case to use him every now and then if you have him, and that's about it. Then we have Novik. Novik was a great companion for Kaiser. He had a really great buff for her. Unfortunately, survivability really hold him back, and you cannot really use him outside of bossing nowadays, basically. So kind of worthless, and I wouldn't invest in this guy unless you, again, want to use him for bossing. Then we have Ren and regular Yuri. They recently received buffs, but I still think they're not worth it enough. They're already in a phase where they are basically still forgotten. You're not going to use Ren even after this buff. You could use regular Yuri after her buff, but it's still a bit too annoying to play, I would say. I found it too tricky to be playing a team around her. That was messing up my other teams, and I didn't really like it. So I would still say basically forgotten. Her kit is not too bad, but doesn't really make too much sense considering the new units we're getting. So yeah, she's basically forgotten for me. Then we have the will quickly fall off category. In here we have not data hats, but Donghai hats. This guy isn't too bad, to be honest. The only downside is that his durability is really trash. But he has debuff immunity, status effect immunity for the team, really good stuff. And he also has an AoE stun, which is pretty massive, and a defense decrease. So all things considered, this guy is pretty good, but I think we're going to get some replacements for him in the near future. Yellow is bound to have some more units because the ones they have are pretty trash so far. So they will definitely try to release something to fill in the gaps here. So I think uh, Tank Hat, although still usable, will be one of those units that will be replaced pretty soon. We also have Shibisu, isn't too bad with the revolution invincibility and Sela. It can survive it a little bit, but his debuffs are mostly single target. They're not too insane. So all things considered, I think Shibisu will definitely be one of those units that are going to be replaced super quickly. And already is kind of hard to fit in any team. So nobody basically uses him. I didn't want to place him any lower than this just because he's still actually quite valuable, but again, not enough. Then we have support Gusten. This guy got a buff the same time as Viol did. but I will say it wasn't enough. I feel like the SSR supports that Purple has are way above him. He is still not too bad, but I don't really see any reasons to be playing him. I every now and then play him together with Chomray just because Chomray is also buffing his bots, but that's basically it. And there isn't really that great of a synergy. They're just whatever. So support Gustang, I will say he will definitely be replaced. He's already kind of replaced, but yeah, not the best of units. Then we have Vivi. She is the highest ranked SSR DPS unit that we see here, yes. And she is definitely good. She has higher ceilings than the other ones. She also has HP recovery block, which is pretty good. She would have been higher for that alone, but recently we got a lot of units with HP recovery block, so that kind of lost value, and hers is only single target. So for that reason, I kind of ranked her as quickly fall off, and she's already basically uh, like worthless. If her deficit is high enough, she cannot really do anything because her max HP damage is capped based on her own attack, and that's a bit unfortunate. Still, not too bad, but definitely will be unusable in the near future. Then we have Karaka. He's also in a similar situation as support Gustang because other purple SSR units do a better job than him. He is still like the other purple units, the SSR ones, need to be like more than one unit, so they use more slots in a team. Karaka can do a worse job, but he only requires one slot, so he's still kind of useful, but his durability is just trash. I don't really see him being used that often. He's definitely useful. Like if he could stay alive, his kit would be amazing. He has a lot of provocation skills. He has a lot of grouping, and his defense shred is pretty nice. But again, not really that great of a unit. I would say at the end of the day, he will definitely be replaced in the near future, and you will never use him again. Then we have 002. This guy, he's a bit weird because he cannot deal damage, but he's a ranged unit. He doesn't have a lot of great debuffs. He only have physical resistance decrease and has a crit damage buff to the frontline team, like to the frontline units. And from my point of view, is not really that worth it. If you're playing Gustang in the frontline, you could use 002 if you don't have any better buffers. It's not going to be too bad because Gustang has guaranteed crits with the subnodes in Revolution and is going to benefit a little bit from the physical resistance decrease. But it's not really worth wasting a slot for just those two effects. Then we have Red Masquarian. She has great crowd control, and for that reason, she's probably going to last a bit longer than the other units in this tier, probably. But she doesn't really provide too much other than the crowd control and a 32% physical pierce to all the team. She's not really going to do much, which is a bit unfortunate, but yeah, that's just how it is. Then we have Awakened Rock. He's going to tank quite well. Isn't too bad. He has a nice provoke. He can also remove an annoying enemy unit every now and then. He's not as good of a removal as Kunagero or Garam, but he's still okay. All things considered, he's an okay tank. He does his job, but doesn't provide much to the team, I would say. Then we have Urek. Urek got a pretty good buff. It was buffed together with Viol and Gustang. Now I would say his durability is quite acceptable in the 300 deficit range. If you go above, then it's still going to be quite trash, but he can at least survive a tiny little bit. And while he's surviving, he provides a swiftness decrease on the enemies and removes buffs from them, which is often pretty relevant. So it's not a bad unit, but we have other units that can remove buffs. You're not often going to use him. So to me, he's kind of becoming obsolete already. Then we have Kaiser. Unfortunately, she's single target. That's the only reason why she's falling off. And well, the second reason is that she's just too squishy. So those two reasons together just makes her not really that worth playing. She has a lot of damage, but again, it's too single target, hard to build around, not really optimal. And with the release of Dawn, there is really no reason to be playing her anymore. Then we have Yama. It was just released and to me is already falling off. He is basically an improved Escanor, but it doesn't provide buffs to the nearby tanks that you might have in the team. He is going to be kinda ass at surviving as well. You need to reach the first special move, and then he kind of does okay. If you can give him enough energy to be chaining special moves, then he will survive quite well, but that's not often easy to do. His grouping is pretty weak, so if there is an enemy very far away, it's going to take a few skills before you can actually pull them close to you, and that's a bit unfortunate. I wish that kind of grab was a bit stronger. And his debuffs are nice, but not that insane. So all things considered, Yama is a okay and solid tank, but doesn't feel special in any way. So it will definitely be replaced. Maybe not in the in the near future because we already got, like we just got his release, but it will definitely fall off very quickly. Then we have Tank and Dorsey, Summer and Dorsey. She gotta be better, I would say, with Bari, to be honest, because she also has some sort of stacking survivability. So you want her to survive a bit so that she can get the increase in defense. So Bari kind of helps, and I saw her tanking a lot more than usual. But I will say she's still not really too insane. She's still better, probably, than for example, Yama, because her grouping is a bit more solid, but that's about it. She has defense decrease in her kit, which is good. She has magic resistance decrease, but on low amounts, I would say. All things considered, a good tank, but definitely her survivability is already reaching the end, and I don't think she's really going to stay relevant in the future. Then we have regular Leroro. This guy has an amazing kit. I always liked it, but unfortunately, survivability is just too bad. If you're facing enemies with just projectile attacks, it's going to be amazing. In all other scenarios, it's just going to die. If he was a ranged unit, then that would have been amazing, but unfortunately, he is close range. So there is nothing you can do about him. He will just die way too quickly. If you try to keep him alive by using an Anniversary Evo Revolution 5, it will just waste all the stacks from Anniversary Evo. It's just weird. That's unfortunate, and I think it will fall off for that reason. If he could actually be used, it would be amazing. But that's it. Then we have Yeonhee. She is the only collab unit that is this high, I would say. Well, other than the new ones, but I'm saying about the Seven Knights collab. She's still worth it. She has a magic resistance decrease. She has nice crowd control with the spam of the special move. And she also has the green resistance decrease, which is okay. I think she will not really be that necessary. Nobody is really using her anymore, but she's still not a bad pick. So I placed her this high, but again, not really an insane kid that you say, wow, she's never going to be replaced. No, she will be replaced sooner or later, and probably sooner than later. Then we have the next tier, the will slowly fall off. In here, we have units that are generally stronger, they are better in the current meta, but they will also eventually be replaced. We have Vargarv. He is an okay tank. He has nice durability in a mono purple team, and he has a very important AoE HP recovery block. The thing is, a lot of units are getting HP recovery block, and I think we're going to see a few more in the near future. So I think this is going to decrease its value even more. Still, it could be used, isn't bad, so I think his like decline is not going to be as quick as other units. Then we have Mashini, the adult version. I would say her damage is insane, is still really good, and can definitely do well even at higher deficits. The thing is, as most DPS units that don't have HP based damage or insane utility, they will eventually fall off. I think Machine is going to be slower than others because she also has insane crowd control in her kit. So for that reason, she will probably stay quite high and her decline is going to be extremely slow. Definitely slower than the next guy that is White. White is still quite insane, like his damage is really high, but he has no real utility for the team, nothing more than just pure damage, which is not enough if we consider it doesn't do HP based damage. So it will reach a point where that damage is not enough, and that's just going to make him irrelevant. I think it will take a lot of time for White to be like irrelevant, as maybe it happened for Kaiser. That will really take a lot of time, but it will happen in the future. Then we have Kunagero. To be honest, Kunagero, I was kind of in doubt whether to rank him in the higher tier or here. I decided to place him here because I feel like, okay, he has AoE stun, which is insane in combo with other units, and also provides a defense decrease, plus the removal of an annoying enemy with the following up the defense decrease and resistance decrease, which is pretty good. But I feel like there will be units that will do a similar job. Purple is one of those elements that have very few SSR plus units, and I think one will come that will replace him. So for me, he is going to eventually be forgotten, but it will take a long time. He's an amazing unit. Then we have Warrion, the support version. To be honest, I should have ranked her probably a bit lower. She's still great. She provides crits against the highest attack enemy. She provides energy whenever you kill them. And she also provides the increase in attack for the team, increase in swiftness, lots of stuff. She's not bad. I would say with Bari, she also got better survivability. She can just cast a few shields before dying. So, not too bad right now, but I could definitely see her kit being obsolete. I don't think she's really going to survive that much longer, and I should have probably placed her in the lower tier. But okay, let me know in the comments what you think about her. But yeah, still usable, just not too insane. Yellowy as well probably could have been placed in the lower tier because she has an amazing buff, but it mostly works with warriors and ranged units. And the main downside is that if you're facing an enemy with a buff removal, yellow is basically gone. Like there is no yellow in your team, and that kind of sucks. So that's the major downside. Otherwise, she's basically an amazing support. Then we have Xiaxia. Probably she could have also gone in the lower tier, other than the AoE attack buff that she has from the passive for red units. And the heal and a bit of energy, she doesn't really do much. So, yeah, to be honest, she should have also fallen in the previous tier. Then we have Evankel, probably the only buff that I think will survive the test of time, like of the buffed SSR plus units, because they gave her a very good HP recovery decrease. Unfortunately, it's not yet blocked, but it's a 90% HP recovery decrease, which is still pretty relevant. And they also gave her a red element resistance decrease. So that basically turned her into a supporter, and she works really well with Gustek. So to me, she's going to stay relevant for a long time. She will eventually be replaced, but that will take a bit. Then we have Romay. To be honest, not many people use her. She isn't bad. She's mostly useful with close range damage dealers, units that take damage and you want to buff her, like to buff them. She has a nice AoE shield that provides effect resistance, but that's not enough. Probably I should have placed her in basically Forgotten, to be honest. I don't know why I decided to place her DSI, but yeah. Let me just, no, okay. I will not move her right now, and I probably won't even publish this tier list in the main spreadsheet. But just know that support Varian, Yellowy, and also Romay are definitely going to go down. Then we have Blanc. She was insane at first. Now, not really too useful. Buffing a random unit, which means the lowest HP unit in your team, that's the unit that's going to get the attack buff and the defense buff, is just weird, I would say. Is too unreliable. The attack increase from the heals is not bad. The green element resistance is also quite good, but I don't know, doesn't provide enough, in my opinion, to really uh, stay relevant in the meta. I think she's already probably in the lower tier in the quickly fall off. I don't use her that frequently. I don't see many people praising her anymore. So I think this unit is going to be forgotten pretty quickly. Then we have Dawn. Dawn might seem strange to see here, but again, she's kind of afflicted as the other DPS units by the fact that they will keep on releasing better DPS units every now and then. They want you to keep spending. DPS units that are not max HP based will eventually hit a ceiling. Dawn's ceiling is pretty high, but still she will hit it. And she doesn't provide enough to the team to still be ranked high. So for now, she's amazing. Soon she will start declining. Then we have Zahard. This guy will probably still stay relevant because of the barrier break, but is not really going to do much outside of that. He has an AoE defense decrease, which is good, but nothing really too important because a lot of new units have a defense decrease somewhere. So not really something too useful. If you have Chomray, Zahard is never going to be your first choice. But if you have multiple occasions where you need a barrier break, it will still be a potential option. So it will slowly fall off, but you will still have use cases for him. Then we have Child and Dorsey. She's pretty good for the AoE energy recovery block. It will really come in handy at times, and that's all she does basically. She has a defense decrease when she dies the first time, but that's really not enough. So she's basically here just for the energy recovery block and also the AoE energy decrease, which is actually steal. So she basically does a similar job as Reflejo, like she steals energy and then she blocks it. Reflejo steals energy and then knocks them up. They're kind of similar, but unfortunately, Sheldon Dorsey doesn't have Reflejo survivability. So she's kind of meh for that. Now we have Calavan. This guy is probably the best SSR plus, green SSR plus units that we have, except for Anniversary Evo, obviously. He's pretty good at grouping. He can survive quite okay with the right investment, but is not exceptional. His damage is irrelevant unless he's being played with Albelda, which I wouldn't normally recommend using Albelda for him, but it is not a worthless unit. Then we have Lozelle. She's also really not that great, to be honest. She has the AoE green attack buff. She also has a debuff removal, which is quite good. She also provides, I think, a defense increase, if I remember correctly. So not too bad, but at the same time, nothing insane. She will eventually be replaced. To be honest, Anniversary Ewa is just basically a straight up improvement over Lozelle, but you could always use Lozelle in some green teams. That's kind of up to you. So that was the last one for the will slowly fall off, even though, to be honest, like at least four of them should have been moved to the previous tier. Then we have the will stay useful tier. In here we have BAM. It will always be good because it provides that AoE energy region, and that's basically it. It also decreases the enemy energy, which is also valuable. But other than that, it doesn't really do much. Still, that single functionality is more than enough to make him worthwhile, especially when you have so many units that really like that provided energy. Then we have Ice Spear Kunagero. He's also going to stay relevant for quite a bit from my point of view because he has that AoE HP recovery block, that defense shred, that swiftness decrease, that magic resistance decrease, like a lot of stuff in his own kit, plus that CC, which is Frost. Really, really good. and paired with some nice grouping, it will definitely still be relevant. Then we have Kronos Yuri. She's also going to stay relevant, probably not as much as Ice Spear Konagero, because she has an AoE silence if you're using Rihanna on her, and also has that ability like active skill block, which is really good, and that HP recovery block that cannot be removed with debuff removal skills. So all things considered, she's still going to be valuable. She's going to provide a shit ton of value for the first 20 seconds, and then over time she's going to be less and less useful. But still, I think her kit is definitely justified. I can see her being used every now and then, even in the future. Then we have Yura. She's amazing to block the energy of an annoying enemy that's in the front line and that she can reach. And then she's going to provide a revive for the team, a lot of buffs for your purple DPS units. So I don't think this unit is ever going to be replaced. Really, really solid. Then we have Reflejo. He is also an amazing unit because he can tank like crazy thanks to his capped damage taken. That is even better than Meliodas one. He has insane AoE crowd control. His area is pretty big. And then he also steals the energy from the enemies, which is really, really helpful. And Purple has a lot of insane combos with his SSR units. Is just insane. So Reflejo, amazing unit. Then we have Nare. Her survivability is a bit of an issue, but she provides a lot for your team. She has a single target resistance decrease and defense decrease, which is pretty nice. She provides a lot of energy to your highest attack unit. She provides some additional survivability to the unit that has the lowest HP in your team. And yeah, just in general, she has a really solid kit. She might get replaced in the future, but she will never be worthless. You're not going to play her 100% of the times already, like you're not already playing her 100% of the times, but there are always use cases where she comes in handy. So I think this unit is overall pretty worth it, and she will likely always find a place in some sort of team every now and then. Then we have Anna. She's the improved version of Endorse I mentioned before, obviously. She has a really reliable grouping. The only issue is if you're facing assassins like Jinsung, regular Yuri that already move away and go on to your team, so they are not really caring about the spawn of the bunny. And also units like White, Ice Spear, Kunagero, all of those will just ignore the bunny, but everyone else they will kind of group up and go towards her, and then you can just follow up with a purple Kunagero that I mentioned before just to stun them in an AoE, follow up with Reflejo with an AoE knock up, and then just keep crowd controlling the enemies like crazy. Amazing unit, comes in handy in a lot of scenarios. You're basically always playing her. Then we have Alice. To be honest, some of these units I was thinking whether to place them in the tier above, especially Yura and Anna and Reflejo and also Alice and some others. But for now, I just keep them in this tier. I think this is already basically the best. And Alice has max HP damage, same as Kunedan and also Family Head Gustang, but hers is a bit weaker, I would say overall. Unfortunately, she has that annoying active skill that really delays a lot of her kit. But her survivability is really good, even if you're going full damage, she will still survive pretty well. So all things considered, really solid unit. She also counters healers, which is massive. And yeah, I think she's going to always be useful for that and for specific kind of targeting. Her damage is still relevant and will always be relevant. So I think she's a nice option to have. And if you ever, definitely try to invest a bit in her. Then we have Spear Bearer Anak. She's in a similar situation as I Spear Kunagero, but I would say she seems a bit weaker. Her survivability is lower, but she has some pros over Kunagero. She doesn't really need grouping as much as Kun does. She just focus on the furthest away enemy. You will just silence them if you're running Rihanna, otherwise just blocking their HP recovery. and then provide the energy decrease, which is not as good as Kuhn's, but still pretty solid. Defense shred, swiftness decrease, lots of stuff that are really, really helpful and will always be helpful. Next up, we have 003. I will say that 003 has an amazing kit. Her survivability is okay once she uses the special move for the first time, and her debuffs are really solid. She provides the red element resistance decrease, which is pretty important, and then a lot of buffs for the unit that is attacking basically the same unit as her. Unfortunately, it's more for like single target hits that are very high in damage, so she's not really going to buff units that do like multi hits. But if you do like single hits of damage that are like max HP based, she's going to be a great support for them, and I think that's never gonna change. Then we have Eugene. I think Eugene, in terms of damage, will fall off eventually, especially if you're not pairing him with a Belda. But the good thing about him is that his durability is really nice. He has a lot of evasion in his kit. He has HP recovery block, and he also has energy decrease, which is really, really good. He has a lot of like crowd control as well. So this unit is a really good frontline tank. And yeah, not much to say about that. Then we have Cassano, and like Blarod and Misang, they have a very specific use case. They grab an annoying unit in a specific position or just attack them, and then they will prevent them from casting the special move or try to. You at times have to support them, but they do an okay job on their own. So their kits are very specific and overall pretty good. So the same thing will be true for Blarod and Misang. Not much else to mention here. Then we have Mamanak. I almost placed her in the tier above, to be honest, but her survivability is just a bit disappointing. Sure, you can just use other units to keep her alive, but I really don't like that. So, like, she's still always going to be used due to the massive amounts of energy she provides, and also the good survivability boost to the linked ally, not to herself, unfortunately. But yeah, I think like buffing wise, she's always going to be useful. You will have to keep her alive in some other ways, but I don't see her going out of meta anytime soon, if ever. Then we have Revolution Bomb. This guy is pretty massive due to his defense decrease and his insane AoE crowd control. His survivability is also really, really good, and for those reasons, this guy is going to stay fairly high up. With the right team, he's also going to dish out a lot of damage. Even though Darwin is a lot more bursty, Bam is probably the one that will stand the test of time a lot better. You will always kind of want to use Bam in the future. So yeah, that's how I feel. Then we have Blarod, basically the same topic as Cassano. They target the same unit and they try to do the same thing. So not much else to mention here. Then we have Garam. Garam is a really good unit. I was also thinking of placing her in the tier above, to be honest, but still, I think this one is a bit better for her. So she has AoE stun, which is massive, boosts the damage of the special move, reduces the HP recovery of a specific enemy when she hides them, and also has defense shred in the kit, energy regen, which is pretty good. So all things considered, amazing unit. Always like she will always provide a lot of value. Just maybe at times not enough. I could feel like they might release a unit that could overtake her place, but that's not happening anytime soon. Garam is just insanely valuable. Then we have Leroro. I think he's better than Blanc in general because of how his kit works. He has the defense decrease, he has the swiftness decrease, he has the attack buff for all the blue units, and in general is a really, really solid buffer. So not much to say here. I really like him. You at times want to use somebody else because at the end of the day, it just provides a bit more damage and a bit more utility thanks to the swiftness decrease. But if you have a maxed out Revolution Bomb, is also providing this swiftness decrease, so you're not going to miss L'Aurora 1 that much. Then we have Data Machine. She cannot really carry in terms of damage, but she can act as a highest attack sort of bait unit. She's invincible for the very least 12 seconds, but usually way more than that. So she's a really solid frontline unit, regardless of the content you're doing, regardless of the deficit. She will always last long enough, and she will always have the sort of bait functionality if fully invested in. At least the attack node should be invested in. So that's more or less the thing for that machine. I think that functionality will always stay with her. And yeah, that's more or less it. Then we have Misang. She is similar to Kasan and Blarod, but she will target the enemy frontline. Really good when you're facing an enemy Kronos Yuri in adventure, because they are vulnerable to CC. You can just use Misang to stop her, and then she will basically be worthless. So yeah, really good unit. I think that sort of use case will be replaced eventually. Like Ejin does a similar thing, is also going to rush to an enemy, stun them, and decrease their energy. So lots of overlapping there. But you always need more units like that. So it's always welcome. If they're going to release a new one, then that unit is also going to be great and is not going to make Misang any worse. Then we have the always super valuable category. I will try to speed up a bit because this video is taking longer than I anticipated. I spent too many words on a lot of units. But yeah, here we have Eden. Eden is obviously always going to be good because of how much max HP damage he has in his kit and how quickly he can spam it. Unfortunately, he is single target, but that's not enough to make this guy worthless. It's just too good. So not much we can say. He will need specific units to work, but in the future, only better units will come out to support him, or just support other teams so that you can use his currently best supports with him. So Eden, from my point of view, is never going to go out of meta in any way due to his max HP damage. Really amazing. Then we have Evan. Even though he's one of the first SSR Plus units, his kit is pretty old. He doesn't have insane value, but he has a single effect which is insane. Immortality for 6 seconds for the whole team, and you can chain it. This is just insane. You definitely want ways to give him more energy so that he can actually keep it up all the time. You want to protect him from crowd controls so that he doesn't like remain stunned instead of casting the special move. But if that's done, that guy is going to improve the survivability of any team like crazy. So absolutely amazing unit, irreplaceable in the future. Yeah, not much else to say. Then a unit that could be a bit of a surprise to some of you, Hirang. I think Hirang is a unit that is very hard to replace in what she does. She is the best grouper we have in the game, I believe. And she also boosts the survivability of your team if you can chain her special move, because all the units, like all the enemies, will be stuck in the middle and won't really be doing much in the meantime. You can also pair her with Ice Spear Kunagero so that Kunagero can hit all the enemies with his special move and just block their HP recovery, decrease their energies, and basically make them worthless. So amazing unit to have, will always be good. Some units will always want some grouping, so Irang is a unit that will always be good. Then we have Albelda, insane buffer, really good survivability boost for your allies. She cannot be targeted, so it's quite hard to remove for the enemies. And the buffs she provides are just insane. I don't think there is much to say about this unit, so we can move on to the next one. Family Head Gustang. He is a family head. He has max HP damage, even though it has a bit of a cooldown to it, but it's still good enough. And he also has insane crowd control. That's so good. It's just insane. If the enemies are not immune to his crowd controls, then there is not even like you cannot even lose. It's impossible. That guy is just insane. Now he is a bit underwhelming to some compared to Tom Ray, But I would say, from my point of view, Ghost Tank really is just stupid. It's just too good. You can use him against a lot of teams, and they will just disappear. And yeah, not much else to say, guys. I think his utility and his damage will always be up there and will never be irrelevant. Then we have Anniversary Iwa, Revolution 5. If she's not Revolution 5, then she's basically worthless. But a Revolution 5, the survivability she provides to the team is just insane. There are so many different situations where she trivializes content. It's just stupid. So I really like her kit. I use her all the time. To be honest, there are a lot of scenarios where you bench her just because you want to see how your teams are doing, and then you add her in the team that's struggling the most. But she's just benched because you like she's so good she can actually turn the tides on a team that was losing and make them win. So absolutely amazing unit. And then we have Tromray. I don't think there's much to say about this guy. He deletes everyone with a shield or with an attack buff. And yeah, just insane. Also great crowd control and grouping because it just pushes them all at the end of the battlefield. Well, same thing for Gusting as well. Really good crowd control, really good damage, max HP damage as well. So not much we can say. This guy is never going to go out of meta. And that's all, guys. Sorry for the 56-minute video. It's been a long time since I made one this long, but I think it was pretty helpful to just go over all the different units and give some words on them. Let me know if you liked it, if it provided any sort of additional value. And as I mentioned at first, this is just, again, purely my speculation. It means nothing in the end. And yeah, that's more or less all. Thank you so much for watching, and I will see you guys in the next one. Bye.